Last spring, I had the great honor of sharing my story in the San Francisco Chronicle as a guest op-ed writer. I talked about my mental health journey and why I chose not to include that journey in my college application. So I thought I would read that op-ed for you all now because I do think it is a really important story. And I really urge you to stay till the end because I think it's important. I'm going to be looking down to read. So here we go. It's titled, "To Get into Stanford, I Had to Hide the Most Formative Chapter of My Life." As a high-achieving high school student aiming for admission into a top-tier university, I knew I had to play the game these institutions desired me to play. So in my applications, I presented a polished version of myself. Doing so meant sidelining the most formative chapters of my life. My mental health challenges ramped up with the pandemic. COVID-19 didn't just shut down the world, it trapped me and millions of other teenagers within the unsettling confines of our own minds. This isolation reflected a broader national trend, as rates of suicidal ideation among adolescents jumped from 17% in 2017 to 37% during the pandemic. Eventually, I lost all hope. The weight of struggles became unbearable, so I decided the way out was to take my life. That attempt soon landed me across the country with a 65-day stay at a residential treatment center, a place where the strings in my hoodies were removed for being too dangerous. These regulations, while possibly necessary, carried an unspoken message. I was broken and needed fixing. At first, I believed this message. I felt like my struggles defined me, that I was somehow defective. But over time, I found strength in the support of the staff and other patients, and their support helped me reconnect with the world around me. I reclaimed a sense of agency, and for the first time in years, I felt truly motivated to move forward with purpose, hope, and a passion to rediscover life through a different lens. That newfound motivation began the only portion of my life I felt safe sharing on my college applications. That chapter, though deeply informed by my earlier struggles, was sanitized and polished. It was the version I believed admissions committees would accept without question. Why did I make that choice? Because I knew the stakes. College admissions forums warned me bluntly, "They'll see you as a liability." One admissions counselor even laughed as they said, "Why would a school risk admitting someone who might drain their limited mental health resources?" These weren't merely opinions. They highlighted a broader reality. A study published in the journal Advances in Physiology Education found that medical school admissions reviewers are twice as cautious about mental health disclosures when compared to physical health ones. Additionally, 21.5% of reviewers said that such disclosures would negatively impact an applicant's evaluation. It's reasonable to assume that other university admissions reviewers would react similarly. The message was clear. Sharing my truth was a gamble I couldn't afford to take. And this perception stems from deeply ingrained stigmas. Nearly half of all undergraduates in the U.S. report facing mental health struggles, yet these challenges are still too often viewed as weaknesses. Weaknesses a university like Stanford, where I'm now a freshman, cannot risk promoting. Colleges might frame their bias as practical, citing concerns about counseling center resources or retention rates, but this mindset ignores the strengths students like me bring to their campuses and brushes our realities aside. My decision to omit my mental health journey wasn't born of shame. It was born of pragmatism. I feared that admissions officers would see me as fragile rather than capable. I feared being defined by my worst moments, but my silence came at a cost. By hiding my struggles, I contributed to the stigma I'd so desperately desired to dismantle. I sent the message that mental health challenges are something to be ashamed of. And in doing so, I denied colleges the opportunity to see how adversity can shape resilience, strength, and leadership. If I had been fully transparent, I would have told admissions officers how my experiences formed me, how surviving a mental health crisis inspired me to share my journey, uplift others, and work towards meaningful change. I would have shared that experience drives my passion for studying the brain. Most importantly, I would have shown how it deepened my empathy and made me a stronger, more mature person. But I didn't. Instead, I distanced myself from the problem, weaving lessons into stories about others rather than my own. Why was I comfortable sharing my grandfather's mental health journey and not my own? Even now, I feel guilty for concealing this part of myself. What would have happened if I'd been honest? Would I still have been accepted to the place I now call home? Or would I have been dismissed as too much of a risk? I suppose I'll never know. But what I do know is that our stories matter. They challenge assumptions, inspire change, and remind us of our shared humanity. When students are made to feel that their struggles are too risky to disclose, it reinforces the idea that they are somehow broken, that part of themselves must remain hidden. In the process, higher education loses out on the very perseverance and perspective it claims to value. I won't make the same choice again. When I apply to medical school, I will share my truth, not just because I refuse to hide, but because my journey drives my actions and accomplishments. And I hope that one day, others will do the same in their applications. I hope they recognize that their resilience is not a liability, but an asset, a powerful part of their story that deserves to be shared. Thank you.